Hey, I'm Matthew. Hey, do you issue RFPs or evaluate RFPs, requests for proposals? If you do, I'm going to tell you the most common reason why most RFPs fail, and also, even if they don't fail, why you end up overpaying for the product or service that you're seeking. So, you may be familiar with RFPs, requests for proposals. They are issued by companies who want a product or service, and they usually issue it publicly or invite a select number of companies to bid on these projects. So I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, a variety of companies, and I've probably reviewed and responded to hundreds and hundreds of RFPs. In fact, a number of years ago, many years ago, I stopped reviewing and responding to RFPs unless we were specifically invited to bid and that we analyze and assess the project before we would even do up a proposal. And that's because of this negative experience we've had over the years pursuing projects through the RFP process. And if you're on the other end of that, I want to help you understand the view from our side as companies who are trying to bid and trying to deliver a product or service to you. So the most common reason for an RFP to fail is because the needs, your needs, the client needs, are not properly articulated. And so what that does is when a vendor supplier such as myself evaluates that, we have to end up making assumptions. Right? We have to assume certain things that are not in the RFP. And when we make assumptions, some of them are small, not a big deal. Many of them can be very big and a very big deal. And by big deal means if we get it wrong, we're not meeting your needs, even though we could have gotten it right. We may actually have the exact product or service you need, but because we're making an incorrect assumption, we're missing the target. Or, and here's where it hurts you even in a successful project, is we end up having to do a risk assessment on that assumption, which means you may end up paying more because of our uncertainty in bidding on a project. Or, some companies, this is not my style, but some companies will underbid, make a mistake, and then come back to you and ask for more money, which, I've never done that in my 25 years. That's not how I roll, but that happens a lot. But the root of the problem is the client is not providing proper needs. Now, there's an easy solution to this, and that is for you as a client to have a conversation with vendors before you prepare and issue the RFP. If you have a conversation with the right vendors, what we'll be able to do is help articulate for you and help define for you and give you clarity on exactly what it is you're looking for, and also, equally important, what you're not looking for. So when you include that information in the RFP, you'll get laser targeted responses that are perfectly matched to your needs and perfectly priced for your needs. So at the end of the day, you're now able to compare apples to apples, because without proper needs assessment, you're comparing apples to oranges. So you might see one price and wow, this is an amazing price, but you're not realizing what you don't know about that price is missing something very important. Or you may actually choose a higher price one, feeling as though you're going to get better value, but at the end of the day, it's not on target. So now some of you may say, well, we're not allowed to talk to vendors. There's a conflict of interest, or there's preference, or there's could be construed as being fishy in some way. So first of all, you don't have to look at it that way. But if you have hard guidelines that you have to follow, here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that you issue a very basic, very simple RFI, a request for information. So request for information, simply all you have to do is just say, look, we're thinking about a project that we need to get done and generally in this area, and we want to identify vendors that might be suitable to help us. And again, keep it very simple, make it easy for vendors like us to respond, because you want to make it easy, not just to save us work, but because if you save us work, we're more likely to give you a better result, and you're more likely to collect more suppliers and vendor responses if you make it easy. So the RFI, what that does, it will allow you to shortlist 3, 4, 5, 6 potential vendors that you may believe can service you, and then you can have conversations as part of that RFI process. I would recommend private conversations, not a group conversation. Although worst case scenario, a group conversation is better than no conversation at all, which I often have run into over the years when an RFP is issued and you can't even ask any questions. And more commonly these days, people will issue an RFP and say, well, you have to send your questions in writing by a certain date, and we're collecting all the questions, and then we're going to give responses and share with everyone. And that's certainly better than not answering questions, but I guarantee you it's nowhere near as good as having a real conversation where vendors like us can really help clarify and crystallize for you exactly what you need in a matter of minutes, like literally in a 20-minute, 30-minute discussion, 60 minutes at the most. You'll be able to save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and get a solution that is perfectly on target for your needs. So anyway, I encourage you to do so. It's not necessarily going to help me because, as I mentioned, I'm out of the RFP business unless I'm specifically invited. Luckily, I have the privilege of having very specialized expertise and knowledge in experiential learning and training, and so we get the opportunity to pick and choose the project we work on these days. But if you're in the business of issuing RFPs, I really encourage you to consider this feedback. It'll provide you with better solutions in the future. Thanks. I'm Mathew Giorgio.